Hey everybody, my name is Jennifer and this is the Quilted Cow Back to the Basics series. Today we're going to be working on the 4-yard quilt kit Canestrelli, and this is our beginning quilting class. This is class number 1 of 4. So just make sure that you keep watching, and we would like to thank our sponsors, Creative Grids, Wilmington Prints, and Husqvarna Viking. Let's start by showing you what makes up the components of a quilt. So you have your quilt top, then you have your backing fabric and a binding that holds it all together. And then on the inside, you have batting. On the back of your quilt, we always recommend using fabric. Please don't use a sheet. So for this quilt, let me show you what this looks like, guys. This is what we're going to be making in this class. Look at how beautiful this is. So for my quilt, I've chosen Floral Party by Wilmington Prints. Absolutely beautiful. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab 4 fabrics, 1 yard of each if you haven't already, and lay your pattern out. I always find it the best thing to do is go ahead and write on your pattern which fabric is which. It keeps it a lot easier. You're less apt to cut the wrong fabric. So for us, what we're going to do, let me point this out to you. This dark fabric is what I started with because I feel that that is actually my main fabric. And for that, I'm going with my black. Then for fabric B, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this floral print right here, which I'm going to call my teal. So that's going to be my fabric B, which is my light on the pattern. And then on fabric C, which is going to be right here, we're going to go with the pink. And then my background fabric is where we're going to use this white. All right, guys, let's get to showing you how to square up your fabric now that we've told you how to lay it out. So when you get fabric, it's never going to be straight. You're always going to need to cut a little bit of it off. So let's go ahead and take this kit apart, and we will start with fabric A. Now, I like to do all of my cutting all at one time. All right, so we're going to start by squaring up our fabric. So your fabric has the folded edge, and you want to make sure that that is towards you. The salvage end is the part that's up here that's unfinished, where it's open, and that's going to be away from you. So go ahead and lay your fabric down. Now, your ruler has, again, depending on which brand ruler you're using, it has all different marks on it. This is a Creative Grids ruler that's 8.5 by 24.5 inches. What you need to do to square up this edge, because this is the edge we're going to cut our strips from for this quilt, you're going to line up the bottom end right here, the bottom edge of the crease of the fabric along one of the lines on your ruler. That way you make sure it's straight. Now, to cut your fabric, and I do recommend, if you have some scrap fabric laying around at home and you haven't used a rotary cutter yet, it's best to try to get familiar with it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to hold the ruler just like this. Now, as you cut your strip, you're going to walk your hand like this. This way we make sure that the ruler doesn't move. So start right down here, take the bare minimum off, and make sure that you are holding your rotary cutter at an angle. And you want to just try to get one swoop just like this. Try not to go backwards, don't saw, just one smooth motion to cut this edge off and just clean up that edge just like that. Then what you do is you pinch this fabric and flip it. Now I'm right-handed, so everything I do today is going to be as a right-hander would do it. Then what you do is you start cutting your strips. Now, I love this 8.5 inch Creative Grid because a lot of the strips that you need to cut, it works out perfect for the size. So what we need to do is we need to cut 3 7.25 inch strips. So you're going to line up. Now's the fun part, guys. Now you're going to learn how to actually cut the top of your quilt. So you line up your 7.25. You're going to make sure that you're lined up all the way across the bottom so that you know you're straight, and your lines are going to be all lined up straight on your fabric right here. Again, 7 1/4 inches, and press and cut, and if you need to, walk your hand up and cut the rest of your strip. Now, this particular one, we're cutting 3 strips. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to scoot that aside and cut our next strip. And then the pattern tells us to subcut. So what a subcut is, it means you're going to recut the same fabric. So I'm going to line these up, lay them all together. Now, you may not want to do it this way if you're totally new, all right, but I feel confident enough that I can cut these straight. So to subcut, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it this way, just so that you can see better. We'll go ahead and do one at a time, just for the new people. All right, now we're going to go ahead. This is my opened end over here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cut off the selvage. Just like that. And our pattern tells us to go ahead and subcut 12 squares, 12 7 1/4 inch squares. So now we have our freshly trimmed open edge over here. We're going to line up again, making sure we're lined up along the edge and the bottom. And we are going to cut our 7 1/4 inch squares. So from that strip right now, there's 2. We've got our 4. And then we need to open this one up to get our 5th from this particular strip. All right, so from one strip, we were able to get 5 7 1/4 inch subcuts. So now you're going to repeat for your other strips. All right, and then after you've cut all your strips, you go back to the same fabric because we have a little bit more to cut from it. We're going to go ahead and cut 2 6 1/2 inch strips from fabric A. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to subcut. So again, we have our opened end over here. We're going to go ahead and trim off that selvage and get 12 6 1/2 inch squares. Okay, now for fabric B, which is my teal, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put the selvage ends away from us, the crease towards us. Again, go ahead and square up the end of your fabric, line up along the bottom, take the minimum amount off of the one edge, pinch and flip. And again, following your pattern, go ahead and cut your strips. This again calls for 7 1/4. And then while we're already cutting, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut the next. Before we subcut those pieces, we are going to go ahead and cut the next set of strips. You might find it easiest to label your fabrics as you go. So now we're going to cut our 6 1/2 inch strip. Okay, now let's talk about these smaller cuts. When it tells you that you have to sew end to end, those are typically our border fabrics. So this fabric is in our border. So it's also going to tell you with fabric B to go ahead and also cut your smaller strips for your border. And we are going to be cutting 5 2-inch strips. So once you've cut out all of your B fabric, you're going to go ahead and you're going to do all of your subcuts, just like we did with fabric A. Now, for your border strips, it says sew end to end. So what you're going to want to do is trim off of these selvages again. Just line it up, trim your selvage. You're going to place right sides together, just like that. So you have one strip, one layer, the other strip is another layer. Line these up and sew 1/4 inch along this edge. And you're going to do that for all of your strips. So you're going to have 5 2-inch strips sewn end to end, and then you're going to press those open. And that way you'll have one of your borders already cut. And then just go ahead and set that aside. You won't need that until later on. All right, so that's how you start cutting your fabric. Now, for your homework, what you're going to do is you're going to work on fabric C and Fabric D. Have all of your pieces cut. All of the ones that say sew end to end, have those ready to go. We'll see you right back here next week for class 2, and we will start sewing our quilt top together.
All right, you wicked cool quilters, you made it to the end. Good job. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook. Also, like and subscribe to our channel. We would like to thank our sponsors, Husqvarna Viking, Wilmington Prints, and Creative Grids.